Imagine heading deep into the woods to make a horror movie, only to discover that you're the one being hunted. A group of filmmakers finds an abandoned cabin in the middle of nowhere, but hidden among the trees are masked killers who have been recording their victims for years. What starts as a simple location scout quickly turns into a brutal fight for survival, and the shocking ending changes everything you thought you knew. Today, I'm going to explain the terrifying horror thriller movie The Last Cabin. At the start of the movie, we see a film crew looking for a good shooting location in the woods, and before they know it, night falls. By this point, the two of them and their cameraman are completely lost, just walking around in circles and ending up right back where they started. To put it simply, all three of them were completely lost. Then they start looking for a good spot to pitch a tent. But while they're searching, they spot a man standing right ahead of them with his back turned. When the man finally turns around to face them, they see he's wearing a deeply disturbing mask. Naturally, seeing this, they immediately bolt. Obviously, if you run into a guy wearing a mask like that in the dead of the woods, you're going to completely freak out. As it turns out, he wasn't the only masked person out there. He had two companions with him, including a woman. Meanwhile, one of the guys on the film crew pulls a cell phone out of his bag to check for a signal so he can call for help. But the masked man catches up to him and takes him out with a chainsaw. Now, only two members of the crew are left alive, a woman and the cameraman. But they don't last much longer either, because the masked killer's close in, taking out the woman first and then the cameraman, and all of this is captured on the cameraman's recording, which we are watching. Anyway, that was just the movie's intro, after which we meet another film crew, this time also consisting of 3 members. The first 2 members of this crew are Hope and Ben, who were sent by a producer named Kevin to find a great cabin for their found footage horror movie. Their cameraman, Shaw, was with them as well. At first, they can't seem to find a decent cabin anywhere. However, Hope insists they'll eventually stumble upon one deep in the woods, so they all pile into the car and drive into the forest. But first, they pull over at a gas station along the way to fill up the tank. And gosh, I don't know why this always happens, but every single movie in this genre features a gas station. Seriously, it's practically a requirement. Next, we see Shaw, who is pumping gas into the car. Shaw is filming everything, explaining that Kevin ordered him to document the entire process, which is why he's rolling. He adds that the camera is supposed to keep running no matter what. After that, they head deep into the woods, where they find a cabin tucked right in the middle of the forest. By now, Ben is getting seriously creeped out and suggests they should probably head back. But Hope completely ignores him and starts walking toward the cabin. Suddenly, she hears a girl screaming from inside, prompting them all to go check it out. Once inside, they realize a TV is on, and the screaming was actually coming from the television screen. They start looking around the cabin when suddenly the owner appears, furious that they broke in. But they explain the situation, telling him they only came inside because they heard a blood-curdling scream. Hope then asks the owner if they can rent the cabin out for 2 days. Sensing their desperation, or rather, taking total advantage of it, the owner demands $2,000 for a 2-day stay, which was ridiculously overpriced. Honestly, even a 5-star hotel wouldn't cost that much. But because she needs it for the movie, Hope offers him $750 for a single day instead. The owner rejects the offer at first but quickly gives in because it was incredibly easy money. Hope hands over the cash, and the owner is just about to walk away with the money. But then he hesitates, stops, and warns them not to venture too deep into the woods because a group of hippies lives out there who might not take kindly to outsiders. He explains that these hippies used to live on the land until the government forced them out, and while most left, a few stayed behind, hiding out in the forest. After delivering this warning, the owner takes off, having made some quick cash. Hope and Ben are thrilled because finding that cabin had been an absolute nightmare, and it was absolutely perfect for their short film. Hope calls Kevin to deliver the good news, and Kevin says he'll be down to check out the cabin very soon. To celebrate the find, Hope, Ben, and Shaw share a drink before heading out into the woods to scout for good shooting locations, realizing the entire forest is perfect for their movie. While Hope is scanning the area, she catches a glimpse of someone moving through the bushes. However, she doesn't think much of it at the moment. Later, the 3 of them head back inside the cabin to review the location footage they shot, and they notice the exact same masked man from the intro standing in the video, which sends Hope into a total panic. She tells Ben to lock all the cabin's windows and doors immediately. Shortly after, Kevin arrives at the cabin. They tell Kevin everything that happened and show him the footage, but Kevin brushes it off, claiming it's probably just some local kid playing a prank. Kevin tells everyone to stay put, but Hope is terrified and wants out immediately. Kevin compromises, saying they can spend the night somewhere else, but they need to wait a bit because his PA, Kate, is on her way to check on the cabin. Hope tells Ben to pack up, and while Ben is sitting near a window, Hope spots the masked man standing right outside, and fortunately, the whole thing is captured on camera. Hope tells Kevin, but just as he's about to look at the footage, someone knocks loudly on the cabin door. Kevin steps outside to check, but the porch is completely empty. Convinced this is just a childish prank, Kevin heads back inside to calm them down. He tells Hope and Ben they're overthinking things, that they shouldn't worry, and that they need to get ready to shoot the movie. Right as he's talking, someone knocks on the door again, and Kevin goes out to look once more. This time, he is confronted by 3 masked killers, including the woman. Kevin walks right up to them and aggressively threatens them to leave. But they don't budge an inch, and suddenly, one of them slams a hammer right into Kevin's head, killing him instantly in a deeply gruesome scene. Shaw grabs the camera and runs back into the cabin, leaving all 3 of them completely traumatized by what just happened to Kevin. To make matters worse, they have no phone signal because the masked killers are using signal jammers, and suddenly the power goes out. Meanwhile, the masked killers are just standing outside, waiting for Hope, Ben, and Shaw to come out. Hope says they need weapons, so they rush to the kitchen, grab a knife each, and manage to find some flashlights. The 3 of them move into another room while one of the killers watches from outside, right when the power suddenly cuts back on. Hope notices a box on the floor filled with old DVDs, and one of them has the word blonde scribbled on it. Hope pops it into the DVD player, and the footage shows a blonde girl being dragged outside by the masked killers. Her hands and feet are bound, and they brutally execute her by running a lawnmower over her face. Horrified, they realize the bedroom where the girl was sleeping in the video is the exact same room they are standing in right now. This meant the masked killers had been pulling this twisted stunt for a very long time. Anyone who stumbled upon this cabin or ventured into these woods was systematically hunted down by them. On top of that, they filmed every single murder. Desperate, Hope and Ben scream out to the killers, asking them what they want. The killers respond with a chilling answer. They want Hope, which sends her into an absolute spiral of panic. She tries to plead with the masked woman, crying that she hasn't done anything wrong and begging them to let them go. But obviously, these psychotic killers have no intention of listening, and Ben tries to snap Hope out of it, telling her these monsters can't be reasoned with. Just then, Kate pulls up outside in her car, and Hope tells Ben that they might be able to make a run for it. But just as they're planning their dash to Kate's car, the killers send an airdrop to Hope's phone. Honestly, discovering that backwoods killers use iPhones was a bit surprising. When she opens the airdrop, the video shows the killers torturing a captured Kate with a power drill. They rip her nails out before finally finishing her off. The crew is absolutely paralyzed with fear, and to push them over the edge, the killers bring Kate's lifeless body right up to the window. They had also slashed the tires of Kate's car, completely destroying their escape plan. Ben decides to make a break for it, hoping to get far enough away from the killers to catch a signal and call the police. But the moment he steps outside, he scrambles right back in because the 3 killers almost take his head off. Back inside, Ben notices that only 2 killers are currently standing outside the window. Hope and Ben move through the cabin to secure all the doors and windows, with Ben grabbing a crowbar for protection. When they step into the bedroom, they find the place completely trashed. As Ben approaches the bed, the 3rd killer emerges from underneath and grabs his leg. Ben reacts instantly, driving the crowbar straight into the killer's face and killing him on the spot. Outside, the remaining 2 killers begin dousing the cabin in fuel to burn it down and force Hope, Ben, and Shaw out. Shaw, Ben, and Hope grab a camera each to make sure everything keeps recording, right when the power cuts out again. Suddenly, the masked woman ambushes them in the dark, but Hope manages to break free, running out of the cabin and into the woods. Back inside, the lights flicker back on, and the masked woman fiercely attacks Ben. Ben fights back and drives his knife straight into her neck, ending her. With the woman dead, Ben and Shaw sprint out of the burning cabin, but the pitch-black darkness of the night quickly separates them. Deep in the woods, Hope is frantically running when the final remaining masked killer ambushes her. She narrowly escapes his grasp and somehow manages to reach her own car. But the killer appears out of nowhere wielding a chainsaw, forcing Hope to ditch the car and flee back into the trees. Elsewhere, Shaw finally catches a cell phone signal, but just as he dials the police, another masked individual steps out of the shadows and kills him. This killer wasn't the chainsaw guy, meaning there were actually way more people involved in this twisted game than they thought. Meanwhile, Hope finally runs out onto the main road, where she spots an approaching car. To her relief, it's the cabin owner, so she jumps in and frantically explains the nightmare she's escaping. But instead of driving her to safety, the owner turns the car around and heads right back toward the cabin. In a shocking twist, we learn the owner was in on it the entire time. He took their money and was actively helping hunt them down. Furious and desperate, Hope plunges her knife into the owner's stomach and leaps from the moving car. Next, we see Ben, who is still desperately running from the killers. He stumbles upon an old, dilapidated cabin, only to find Shaw's lifeless body inside. Before he can react, the chainsaw killer emerges from the shadows and hacks Ben to death. We cut to Hope, who is recording a final, desperate message, pleading that if anyone finds this footage, they must take it to the police and hunt down these masked monsters. She starts hunting for an escape route when she notices a masked killer tracking and filming her. Turning the tables, she sets a clever trap for him. The moment he trips into it, Hope springs out from behind and brutally bludgeons his head with a rock until he stops moving. Hope is just about to make her final escape when the chainsaw killer suddenly corners her. He swings the chainsaw, slashing Hope across the stomach. Despite the horrific wound, Hope keeps running, but the killer stays hot on her trail and eventually tracks her down. But this time, Hope fights back with everything she has, driving her knife deep into his chest and killing him. The scene shifts to a podcast studio, where we see Hope sitting as a guest because she actually survived the nightmare. She recounts the horrific ordeal, explaining how her friends were brutally murdered and how she barely escaped with her life. We then learn that Hope is now directing a major Hollywood film, which is heavily implied to be based on her traumatic experience. After the podcast wrap, Hope goes home and falls asleep in her bed. Suddenly, the camera shifts to a first-person perspective of someone filming Hope while she sleeps. It's one of the masked killers, who then brutally kills her in her bed. Personally, I think this final jump scare might actually just be a meta scene from the movie Hope is directing. Otherwise, surviving all of that just to get caught at home makes no sense, and boom, just like that, the last cabin comes to an end. So friends, that was the story of The Last Cabin. Now, if you analyze it, these masked killers were either local cultish hippies or unhinged locals who absolutely despised outsiders. They systematically targeted people from the city who came out into the woods to film, viewing them as invaders. You could definitely call them mentally unstable, but there's a twisted method to their madness. Since these film crews came out to shoot movies, the killers turned the tables by filming them as they died. They were literally making their own horrifying movies out of their victims, and the most twisted part of it all was that the cabin owner was operating as their inside man. Ultimately, regarding that final scene, I firmly believe Hope didn't actually die. It was almost certainly a fictionalized sequence from the film she went on to direct. And overall, everything we witnessed up until the podcast likely happened to her for real, but she later turned that trauma into a movie. Or, if you want to get really dark, it's entirely possible she was secretly working with the killers all along, luring her crew to the cabin to capture authentic horror footage just to jumpstart her filmmaking career. I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. If you did, please drop a like on the video. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to check out my recap of Don't Blink, which has a wildly unique concept. In case you missed it, the link is pinned right at the top of the comment section below. I'll see you all in the next video. Until next time, stay safe.